Hello, everyone. This is another Black Conservative. I am Ryan Boland. Thank you all for joining me once again. I want to talk about something here that is a change of pace. And what I want to talk about here in this video is Black culture. What is Black culture and what isn't Black culture? Because I think that this is a big issue among a lot of African Americans. And I'm going to use that term African Americans just out of respect. At one point, I said I wasn't going to use it because I don't consider myself to be an African American. I consider myself to be an American first, well, Christian first, an American second, and then a Black man last. But that's just me, okay? So I'm going to use the term African American out of respect for those who feel that they are descendants of Africa. So out of respect, I'll say African Americans when referring to other Black people. But many African Americans in America today have what I consider to be a misunderstanding of Black culture. Now, let's just deal with this whole concept of Black culture because it has been used to foster division among African Americans in America and have caused groups to be on this side and on that side and on the other side, and it's just causing us to have our fists raised up at each other. But I'm going to give you my reasoning based on my research and my reading and studying on what I believe Black culture really is and what it is not. Now, going back to this whole concept of Black culture, as we understand it in today's society, it is not walking around with your pants hanging down, having an adherence to working, hating getting an education, selling drugs, calling women B's and H's. That is not Black culture. That is a subculture of the Black community, but it is not Black culture. Now, the mainstream leftist media has hyped these negative traits of the African American community on the media, and entertainment, and music, and every other institution that has influence in people's minds and thought patterns, have utilized these institutions to spread this idea that what I just named is the actual Black culture. In fact, part of the reason why so many people believe that these negative traits that I just described to you are a part of Black culture is a group known as multiculturalists. Now, multiculturalists are basically mostly controlled by the left. And multiculturalists, which are really actually a part of academia, as Thomas Sowell often puts out, has this concept or this idea that all cultures are equal and are the same. That if you had this culture and all these different cultures come together at the same table, and present whatever strengths that they have at the table, they would all be equal and all the same. The problem with that philosophy, it is just not true. As far as being human beings made in the image of God, as far as having a mind, intellect, emotion, and will, yes, all cultures are the same. But all cultures are not the same or equal when it comes to certain aspects. Certain cultures are more prevalent in certain things than other cultures. For example, the European culture tends to be, when I say European, I'm including America as well, because America came from Europe, we all know. The European culture tends to be more prominent in the area of technology and advanced technology, medicine, all the really technically advanced concepts. The Europeans tend to have a prevalence in that area. Now, you can say what you want to say. Well, they stole it from the Black man. And they stole it. I'm not going to get into all that nonsense, okay? Because many years ago, okay, prior to the 15th century, Europeans were considered to be below the echelon, if you will, of technology and education. Okay, they learned these idioms, if you will. They learned these traits from other cultures, such as China and many of the Arab nations. They learned these things from them, and they built on them and capitalized off of them. So let's not get into that they stole. The Europeans simply learned these traits from other cultures who were more advanced than they were, and they did what a lot of cultures don't do. They capitalized off of it and built off of it. Now they are the number one producers of highly advanced technology. They are the number one producers of freedom. They are the number one producers of education and so forth. They are the ones that are doing these type of things. Okay. And you can say, well, that's European imperialism. But before there was any European imperialism, there was Chinese imperialism. Okay. There were other forms of imperialism. Other nationalities were practicing imperialism as well. The difference is that the Europeans took what they had learned from these cultures and they capitalized off of them and built off of them. Everybody else was beating their chest, talking about, look how great I am, without pushing and capitalizing off of the abilities that they already had. The best man won. It is what it is. Now, having said that, if you bring all these other cultures together at the table, they are equal in their humanity, but they're not equal in certain aspects that you bring at the table. This is what multiculturalists teach, but it is not accurate. Because as I just said, the Europeans are on top when it comes to technology and education and others. These are the things that actually run the world. The Africans are not doing it. Okay. The Asians are not, well, you have some of the Asians in China is doing it, but that's a whole nother story. The Communist Chinese Party is actually stealing things, intellectual property from America, but that's a whole nother story, and I digress. They're not doing it. Okay. So based on that concept, all cultures are not equal based on what I just laid out there. Okay. When it comes to those areas in our humanity, we are. But in terms of technology, education, and the rest, we're not. So we can argue that all day. So going back to the whole idea of black culture, what is black culture in America? As I said, the left, which is primarily made up of multiculturalists, and multiculturalists are primarily made up of the left, creates this persona of black people or African American people in America as people that walk around with their pants hanging down. They adhere to education. They adhere to morality. They adhere to learning. They adhere to working. And multiculturalists say if you criticize any of these kind of negative traits from the African American community, you are criticizing who they are as a culture. To do so, according to multiculturalists, is to be racist. But that is an inaccurate portrayal of black culture. Now, somebody may argue, Mr. Bolin, black culture is African culture. No, it's not. Because, number one, none of us that's listening to this video that are black was born in Africa. We were born in America. Now you may say, well, our descendants our ancestors rather were black, and many of them were slaves. Okay, that's true. But how do you know that you are directly connected to any of these slaves? Are you going to do any homework or research to find out, like Alex Haley did, to find out who your great grandfather and great whatever else was actually a slave? How many people are going to actually, how many African Americans are going to, in the present, going to actually go through the effort of doing that? Very few, if any. So we cannot say with accuracy that we are descendants of slaves because we don't know that. Many of these black African, these slaves, many of them were descendants of tribes in Africa that were actually a part of the slave trade in the 15th century. Are you willing to find that out? Probably not, because that would really mess up your day. So we really can't make that argument. We were born in America, so we can't really make that argument that we are Africans. Those of us that were born in America, we adopted American idioms, American tastes, and American customs for ourselves. Now, what I believe black culture is in America today, in its purest sense, is an amalgamation of unique black expressions combined with American customs in its purest sense. And what I mean by that is there are certain traits that are unique to black people in terms of the way they express themselves verbally, physically, in terms of dance and song. I mean, you look at many of the black churches in comparison to many of the European churches, and their ways of worship is different. But it isn't different because blacks are necessarily trying to be different. It is just the way they are designed that they tend to express themselves differently than their white brothers and sisters in churches. That's just a part of being black in terms of that particular characteristic. Okay, we talk about when you talk about the black culture in its purest sense in America, we can go back to jazz. Jazz was a creation of blacks. Rock and roll was a creation of blacks or creation of African Americans in America. It wasn't a creation of Africans. It wasn't a creation of any, it was a creation of black people in America. Jazz, rock and roll, R&B. They were creations of black. It was creations of black people. What they did was these blacks who created these musical expressions utilized or combined the American concepts and customs and put them together. So you have an amalgamation of black expression and European or American, to be specific, American customs. So the true black culture is exactly what I said it is, the way I see it, okay? It isn't walking around with your pants sagging. It isn't, I don't want to go to school and get no education because that's being white. That's not black culture. That is a trick of the liberal establishment working through multiculturalists to brainwash blacks into believing that if you do this, you are considered trying to be white. And it is a way to side with blacks so that when it comes time to vote, blacks will vote on the liberal side. It is a way to trick blacks and keep blacks brainwashed so that when it comes time to vote, they'll vote for liberal politicians, which tend to be Democrats or the progressive Democrats to be specific. That's what that's all about. It's all about keeping power. It's not about being authentic towards black people. Blacks in the early history of America, after slavery and after the Civil War in particular, okay, adopted a lot of these American concepts and customs for themselves because they were so adamant about being Americans. They wanted those freedoms so intensely that not only did they strive to be educated when they could be, because there was a lot of discrimination going on back then, true discrimination, but those that could get it, they got an education, man. They were on the top. They were outdoing their white counterparts. They were scoring higher than the white counterparts. They were mastering everything in terms of boxing, medicine, science. I mean, they were outperforming in every area. Not because they were innately better, but because they understood, blacks at that time understood that if they were going to be accepted, they had to be the best at everything they did. And they were so good that even though true racial discrimination was going on at that time, whites was requesting the help of black doctors, black lawyers, sports figures was, hiring black sportsmen, because these guys were so good that they knew that they would bring in the income. That's true black culture. It is an amalgamation of unique black expression that does stem from Africa in terms of emotions and the way we express ourselves, but it's also a combination of European and American, to be specific, customs and belief systems. That's black culture. Okay, not this nonsense that the liberal establishment is pushing on black people today to keep people on the plantation, the urban plantation that the progressive Democrats have created for them to keep them in power. You want to be really black? Get an education. You want to be really black? Have some integrity and moral values about yourself. That's true black culture. That's what the true black culture is. But see, I believe we're being brainwashed by the liberal establishment to keep us enslaved psychologically and on the urban plantation so that we can continue to vote for progressive Democrats and keep them in power. That's all that's about. So that's just my view on what true black culture actually is. It's an amalgamation of these two concepts. Let's stop listening to these liberal people that's lying to us and telling us, well, you're not black and all this kind of stuff. And if you ain't black if you don't vote for me. Man, get out of my face. Okay? Get out of my face. But I just wanted to give that the little historical analysis of what I consider to be true black culture that is much, much refined than the liberal establishment is trying to paint to you and I and to a lot of other black people out there to make you feel like you're not black. Being black, okay, in its truest essence, is an amalgamation of black expression, natural black expression, in addition to combining European and Americans, to be specific, customs and concepts into one. It is a synergy that people everywhere want now. Okay? We are Americans. Those of us that are black, that are born after slavery and after the Civil War, that are born in America, we're Americans. We're not Africans. And I'm going to end it right there. So what do you guys think? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. God bless you all. See you again.